Applying to graduate school can be difficult and confusing. Here in museology, we want to demystify the process so you can put together the strongest application possible. In this video, I want to cover some information about applying to the Museology graduate program at the University of Washington. Specifically, I'll cover the application process and what you will need to include in your application, information about how applications are reviewed and what our reviewers are using to score, tips for putting together a strong application, and some frequently asked questions about applying. Just a quick note that I am recording this video for those applying to the program for autumn 2023. So if you're applying in a different year, please be sure to check out our website to learn about any updates to our application process. For application materials, there are a number of things that you'll submit as part of our application. First is a personal statement, where you'll address 3 prompts. Why do you want a graduate degree in museum studies? What makes you an outstanding candidate for our program? And tell us the time when you failed and what you learned about about yourself from the experience and how you moved on from it. You'll also write an essay that's a critical response to the American Alliance of Museums Trend Watch publication, and a diversity statement where you'll describe how you would contribute to an inclusive community within the museology program. We ask for 3 letters of recommendation from both academic and professional sources. We do require at least 1 academic letter of recommendation from faculty members from your previous undergraduate or graduate degrees, and strongly recommend 2 such letters. Professional letters of recommendation should be from a supervisor, manager, or mentor from your previous professional experience relevant to the interests in the museum field. And there's a little bit more information about getting strong letters of recommendation on our applications tips page. You'll include a resume or CV that highlights relevant experience, and then your unofficial transcripts. And here you'll submit all unofficial transcripts from undergraduate and graduate level courses. So that includes courses that were taken from any degree granting institution or institution where a grade was assigned. So for example, this could be classes taken at a community college, study abroad institutions, etc. But you don't need to submit transcripts for a certificate program. You don't need to send in official transcripts as part of the application process. Those are only required after you've been offered admission to the UW. Please note that we do not require you to submit GRE scores for our application. And please do try to submit all of your application materials, including your letters of recommendation, by the priority deadline, as we will begin application review shortly after that deadline. There are a few other pieces of the application process that some applicants may want to consider. One is we do have a prompt, an optional prompt for extenuating circumstances that were not addressed in other sections of your application that may be related to your academic transcripts, your resume, or other facets of the application. So for example, if you had some kind of extenuating circumstances during your undergraduate degree that caused your GPA to suffer, you can use this as a space to explain that. For non-native speakers, the UW does require demonstration of English proficiency, and there's a lot of information about specifically what is required for that on the graduate school website. But generally, most applicants demonstrate English language proficiency either through tests or from previous degrees. So some of the tests that are accepted by the graduate school include the TOEFL, where they recommend a score of 92 or higher. The TOEFL ITP Plus, where they recommend a score of 627 or higher. The Duolingo test of 120 or higher, or ITLIS score of 2.0 or higher. So those are for tests that you may need to submit, or if you've earned a degree from from certain accredited institutions, that can also be a demonstration of English proficiency. And again, that information for what kinds of institutions would apply are included on the graduate school website. There are a few minimum requirements that all graduate students applying to the University of Washington must meet. First, you must have earned a bachelor's degree by the time you enter graduate school. Second, you must have at least a 3.0 GPA from the last 60 semester graded credits or 90 quarter graded credits. It is important to distinguish that this does not mean that you need to have a 3.0 cumulative GPA for your whole undergraduate degree, but just that your most recently graded classes. So make sure to read through the instructions on how to calculate your GPA in the application instructions. If you are a non-native English speaker, you must demonstrate English language proficiency, as we talked about previously. And there are more details in Memo 8 on the graduate school website about what fulfills that requirement. Museology doesn't have any specific minimum requirements or prerequisites beyond those set by the graduate school. We accept and encourage applicants from every major to apply. But I do want to take some time to explore our admissions rubric to illustrate what kinds of qualities we are looking for in a strong application. We look for three things when reviewing applications: academic potential, professional experience, and contribution to the program. For contribution to the program, we are looking for applicants with a diversity of backgrounds, perspectives, and life experience, and how these experiences or the applicant intends to contribute to an inclusive and learning environment within our student body. And for us, contribution is really the key word here. Right? What that unique perspective that student is bringing and would like to contribute to the learning environment. Academic potential means having an exceptional academic track record, showing evidence of analytical thinking, quality writing, and passion for a relevant aspect of the museum field, and strong academic references. And professional experience means that we are looking for considerable relevant experience related to your stated areas of interest, along with exceptional professional recommendation letters. Experience can be in a museum, but it doesn't have to be. It also includes professional experience that may have informed your interests. For example, you may have worked as a teacher, worked in science communication, in some other nonprofit work, etc. Anything that is informing what it is that is making you want to work within the museum space. Now to shift over to thinking a little bit about tips to really help you put together a strong application. First, a couple of things to make sure to do while you're writing your application. First is to emphasize your strengths in all three of the criteria mentioned above. If you come in with a lot of professional experience, highlight that, but don't neglect the other two criteria. So for example, if your GPA is not very high, but you've done very well in particular classes relevant to what you're passionate about in museums, you should highlight that as well and not just rely on your professional experience to be the only factor to stand out in your application. Do make sure to proofread. Have instructors, professionals, loved ones, etc. proofread your work for grammar, coherence, and to see what makes you unique. You might get conflicting perspectives, but having an outside perspective or perspectives can really help you clarify your writing and make sure the strengths that you want to highlight are evident. Make sure to be clear and specific. So make it easy for reviewers to quickly find the most important things you want to highlight. For example, in the personal statement, be super clear in your response to which of the three questions you are answering. You can even use the question in your response. So, for example, you could write, I would make an outstanding applicant to your program because, instead of trying to bury that answer somewhere in the text of your writing. Also, make sure to highlight specific examples that give us evidence of what you're trying to illustrate. So don't just say that you're friendly or welcoming, right? Talk about specific experiences that can demonstrate this quality for the reviewer. Make sure to get good letters of recommendation. We put a lot of tips on our website about how to get good letters of recommendation, so make sure to consult with those. You want recommenders that can offer specific insights about your strengths as a potential graduate student. Make sure to cultivate those relationships and give your recommenders plenty of time and reminders about when recommendations are due. Make sure to look through the instructions that we ask you to send to recommenders, and think about the qualities that you would want those recommenders to highlight, and see if that helps you to identify who might be able to write more specifically about those qualities that you possess. And finally, research other graduate options. Learn more about other graduate programs as well, so that you know what makes this program unique and why this program might be a good fit for you. If you're able to contrast what this program offers to what other graduate programs offer, it could help you write more specifically about why this program will help you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So now to think about a couple of things to avoid. Don't start your personal statement with, I have always loved museums. You may very well love them, and that's fantastic, but it doesn't tell us why you love them and why you want to work in them. And to be quite frank, it isn't necessary for you to love museums. We really want to see what makes you a unique candidate in our program, and so we want you to lead with those things. Also, try to avoid overwriting. So think about some of the key things you want to highlight and give us some examples that really make those things stand out. Sometimes if you try to say everything, it can come out as kind of not really saying much of anything. And make sure to make it easy for the reviewer to remember what those key features are that you want to stand out. Finally, don't try and hide any, I'm putting in quotations here, red flags. Be proactive and talk about any consistencies that may be present in your application. You don't want to just hope that no one notices that you don't have a lot of museum experience. Instead, tell us about the experiences that you have had, or the effort that you put into trying to find those relevant experiences. We really want people that are passionate about this work, but understand that life circumstances and available opportunities may differ depending on where you are. And, it's even possible for some of these things to become a positive. If you really had to work hard to find that one internship you did pursue, explain that. We want to see how well you can persevere in the face of some of these challenges. Now, a couple of frequently asked questions we get about our application. So, my GPA is low. What should I do? Put it into context. If something disruptive happened to you that made your grades suffer, make sure to include that in the extenuating circumstances portion of the application. You don't need to go into details, especially if that doesn't feel comfortable. But context can help the reviewers see this in a more positive light, and again, could potentially lead to even being a strength. Also, if you have a low GPA, a great letter of recommendation can go a long way in showcasing your true capacities for graduate level work. And then also, one of the other things we're looking at in academic potential is the writing. So make sure your writing within the application is strong. Another question we get asked is, if you've been out of school for a while, what should I do about the academic letters of recommendation? And my first tip is always to first try, right? Often I get asked the question that people don't think they would have anyone that would write a recommendation or remember them. But we do have, again, a lot of tips about how you might rekindle or remind a recommender about your work in previous classes. And again, there are some good tips about how you can ask those questions and give those recommenders an out if they really don't feel comfortable writing a letter of recommendation. If that doesn't work, then please reach out to us, and we'd love to talk a little bit more about the context of what it is that you're up against, and see if we can identify a good solution. I don't have a lot of museum experience. What do I do? Highlight some of the other professional experiences that you have that might be informing why you want to pursue a museology degree. We really want you to be able to show what you've done to pursue your interest in this field. So again, context matters here. If you grew up in a small town and there's only one museum and you weren't be able to get involved there, it's different than if you grew up in a large city with lots of museums around and didn't pursue any internships there. We want to see how you've been intentional about working towards this goal, and so anything that you can do to highlight any kind of relevant experience is always a plus. Also, if you are in that position, it never hurts to see if there are other opportunities that you can do and that you can look for in the meantime, whether that's volunteering, internships, jobs, anything that you can see that's relevant to your interest in museums can always strengthen that dimension of your application. And finally, another question we get asked sometimes is if you need to apply to work with a particular faculty member. And the answer is no. You're not applying only to work and research with one particular faculty mentor, but you should review what our faculty are passionate about. We have their bios on our website, and our faculty strength can really demonstrate what we teach in the program and help you determine if this program is a good fit for you. So taken as a whole, I think it can really inform your decision about thinking about applying to this program. So that's all I have, but if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via email or give us a call, and we'd love to talk a little bit more about how you can put in the best application possible.